Daniel here again. In this video, I'm going to walk you through steps that we recommend at St. Paul's Free University um, for when you start up the business side of your online website and online coaching and courses that we're building as part of this group. So if you've ever looked into starting a business, you've probably heard about all the different types of things you can form. You can form a sole proprietorship or a partnership, and this is really where you're just doing business in your own name. So you're a person doing business, and there's no separation between your assets, the business assets, and really no protection for you legally if anything were to happen. Then the next one that everyone's heard of is a general corporations, often called a C corp, and this is where you have a board of directors and you issue shares, and it's a separate entity, so it protects you to a certain extent from being sued directly if anything were to happen. But it doesn't. But there's a lot more setup to do. You have to file multiple reports. You have to follow the whole process, and if you don't get it quite right, maybe your legal protection not there. The one that we recommend, the one that's most commonly used from what I've seen in the internet space for us people, smaller businesses, is a limited liability company. And this is kind of the best of both worlds. So, and as it says in the name, limited liability company limits your personal liability for your business activities, and it separates out your personal life and your business life, which is what we're used to if you're, if you work for a company. But as the owner, you still get a certain level of separation, and you don't have to do all the extra taxes and all the extra filings that go with corporation. There is a little bit of filings that you need to do, but it's much less. So it's a nice in between. Lastly, I'm going to just mention S corp. You may see this around. And S corp is actually not a different type of business entity. It's actually a special tax bracket. And so in this video, I'm not going to go into S corps at all. Whether you would want to file to be an S corp or not is kind of something you would go over with your accountant or at a later stage. At the very beginning, it doesn't matter. You can always file to be one in the future as a normal corporation or as a limited liability company. You may see that out there. I just wanted to mention it so people don't get confused, but we're going to go with limited liability. So why? Well, there's four big reasons why you would want to choose a liability company. And the first one is, of course, the legal protection. Some people just have a single LLC for all their businesses, all their different courses, or whatever they're doing online. Some people even go to the extent of having multiple. So maybe every website or every offering that they have will be owned by a different corporation or a different LLC to insulate everything. I don't know that if you necessarily need to go to that degree, but those are options that people choose. For me, I personally just operate under a single LLC for the time being and just lump all of my business activities like that. The next thing is LLCs are location independent. Because we're running an online business, we don't have to form an LLC in any state because we're serving the entire country. So it actually gives us the option to choose states with more beneficial tax structures, beneficial laws for people doing online businesses. And if we ever decide to move, or you want to take your business on the road, or do a lot of different events around the country, it saves you from having the hassle of necessarily needing to move which state you're registered in. So that's nice to have for what we're doing. Also, it's a lot simpler than doing a full C corporation. As I mentioned before, there's a lot less filings, and it can be a lot cheaper because with C corps, you have to file taxes for the corporation and for yourself separately. So if you have one corporation and then yourself, you're filing two taxes a year. Two corporations, you're filing three sets of taxes. But then LLC, it doesn't matter how many you have, just filing your personal taxes. Or even if you have partners, the value of the limited liability corporations are folded into personal taxes. So everybody's just doing the same number of taxes as you normally would. And so it ends up being a lot easier to deal with. Also more flexible if you do end up growing your business and you want to bring in partners or you want to bring in investors or anything like that, limited liability companies have the option of using articles of formation or operating agreements, which let you write out basically a full contract about how the partnership is going to work, who's responsible for what, who's getting paid for what. And so it makes it a lot easier as you grow to add in new people, and everybody feels like they're covered on a financial basis, and very few unexpected, or a lot fewer unexpected events could happen. So with that said, let's get started and actually form a new corporation. So there's a couple different ways that you could go about forming an LLC. You can actually go to the state and file it yourself with the normal process. There's a lot of people online now that will do it for you for basically very little cost. And if you're going to file in a state besides the one you're living in, you're going to need somebody in that state to act as a registered agent. So for that reason, I recommend you just go with one of the online business formation services like Inkfile, INCFILE. That's one that I've used in the past, and they have fairly competitive rates. There's also one that I've been recommended for the state that we're going to choose, which is wyregisteredagent.com. And there's a ton out there, and you can browse, shop around if you want to do that. But if you don't know what you want to do, I would recommend just go with File. I've worked with them before, and it works. It's very easy. And I'll walk you through that, going through that process here. But it's going to be very similar with majority of other providers. So I'm just clicking Start My Business, and one we want to choose an entity type, and that is LLC. The next is state of formation. So everybody kind of has their own favorite state. I know a lot of people use Delaware. You could also just use the state that you're currently in if you want to do that. But for the current status right now, from what we're hearing, is that Wyoming is has fewer fees, and it's got a more favorable tax situation. If you're gonna choose a state other than your own, we recommend Wyoming. So for this, I'm going to go with Wyoming, and then you can see in this particular service, they have a bunch of plans with extra things that you can get. So I already looked through all this, and honestly, we don't need any of this for what we're doing, except for we will need an EIN. But I'm going to show you how to do that yourself, so it can save you bucks. So we're going to go with the cheap plan here. Go for the silver plan, and now we just need to fill out our information. So the first thing, my browser's already filled this in for me, is your name, your address, or email address, phone, mailing address. This is all internal, at least with how this service works. This is all internal, so this will not be shown, as they say here. This will not be shown to the public as other addresses later on this process will be. So this is just something, you have whatever your current residential address is. Then they want to know, do you want to spend extra to rush it? I don't think you do, so I'm going to go no. All right, so now you need to choose your LLC name. This needs to be something that's not currently in use in that state. So I'm just going to use one of my business names. That, and you can choose whichever one of these you want. They all just different forms of LLC. I like to use initials, so this is the full official name in the state. Then choosing a business type, I recommend that you go with internet or web-based services, because we're going to be mostly internet-based sales and such. One owner, business purpose. This you only have 100 characters, and it's pretty short, so I just go with something simple like website, blog, courses, their ultimate goal, and online. You can write whatever you want. Are you registering an entity containing word or words in any form of foreign language? No, we are not. Okay, so now you actually need to use a company address. So one option you have is to use your own address here, and you would actually put in something, and you can use a PO box. This address is going to be in public record. Everybody on the internet that knows how to look for it, pretty easy to do, will find this address. So you're more than welcome to go and just use your home address if you want to use that. PO box if you have a PO box, or you want to get one for your business, which is nice to have. I have a separate mailing service just for my business, so all my business stuff gets sent there, and my personal address isn't on public record. Inkfile also will has this option of spending $30 a month to get mail forwarded to their box, which you can use if you prefer. I'll just go with that for now, but whichever one you like to use, fine. So now they're trying to upsell you on the premium service, and we don't need an operating agreement since we're only a single person. Unnecessary. Banking resolution we're not going to need because we're only a single person. Express shipping, it doesn't matter. Business contracts, that's cool, but we don't need that. The only thing we want is the EIN, but to me, it's not worth the extra upsell. I'm going to show you how to do that later. So don't click on the big orange one. Click on the little tiny blue one below it that says ourselves. So now you need to list all the members, which should just be you. So if you put in your information before, you can just click done. Now here's another area to watch out for. If you use your real residential address like I just did, this is going to be in the records on the state. And so people looking will be able to find this as well. Some people don't care about that. You can also use the file. You can also use the address that you bought from them. So this will be the same address as the business. If you didn't choose that, they'll have the option to put in your own address. So you can unclick that and just put in a different thing. So if you're using a PO box, I would just recommend using the PO box, the same one as previously. So use whatever address you put in previously. If you want to, I would use that just because I'm not going to actually file for this business. I have all the LLCs I need at the moment. Okay, so now here's a really interesting one. If you're in a different state than you live in, you need somebody in that state who's a resident there to act as your registered agent, which is basically just your point of contact. And this company does have a service in Wyoming for registered agents. And the first year is free. So I would recommend going with that. If not, you're going to have to find a third-party registered agent. But if you're filing for your own state and you want to not have to pay the extra fee, which is probably a good idea, I would just click, I would like to act as my own, and then you would put in the same information. But with this one, you cannot use a PO box, so you actually have to put in your real address. Or if you have an office somewhere, you could use an office. That's why we're recommending opening a business in Wyoming, because they're lower, and then you can use them as a registered agent. You get it free for the first year. Choose that option. So now they're asking again, do you want them to get any IM for you? You can just spend 70 bucks and they'll do it, but it only takes about 5 minutes. So I'm going to say no again. They're going to keep asking us to add all these extra little bonuses. So the next step, or the third step, is actually get a bank account. And if you don't know where and you want to get the $450 bonus, you can use the deal that they have with Bank of America. Basically, it's yes or no. They're going to have somebody call you, say yes. I'm going to say no just for now. All right, electronic delivery versus print and send. I rather just print it myself, so electronic delivery, save bucks. They want to do some kind of consultation. Never mind, I don't care. Do that if you want. All right, now they want to try to get you business licenses. We're not going to need that, so click no. Good. So now we're at the end, and they just want you to look over everything and make sure that it's correct, because this is going to be a public record after this point, after you put in your credit card and make the payment. So it actually costs money to fix this stuff after this point, because you have to refile with the state. So it's good to double check that everything is correct. I'm going to hit next. Everything looks good. And then last step, they want you to pay with a credit card. So you would, I'll go to new here because I already have one on file with them, but you would just put in your billing information, credit card information, just like normal, hit complete and pay. And then in about a week, we'll get an email from them saying that they're done, and you will have a new business. So that's all it takes to form an LLC.